What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about motor mounts. Why would you want to upgrade your motor mounts? Now, I had some good reasons in my differential bushing upgrade video, which I will link below. And a lot of those things are somewhat affected by the differential bushings, but more so affected by the motor mounts. Check out this footage. As you can see, when you get into the higher power levels, that engine really jumps around a lot. This engine stock made about 90 pound-feet of torque, and now it makes 240. So the stock mounts, to say the least, are becoming overwhelmed. Just looking at that footage, you would think it's a good idea for everyone to upgrade their motor mounts, but I've always been terrified of upgrading my motor mounts. And the reason is because when you upgrade your motor mounts, your noise, vibration, and harshness, or NVH, can go through the roof. Your whole car can vibrate really bad if you get certain types of motor mounts. I've chosen these AWR motor mounts. These are the 70 durometer, which are the softest. And I wasn't going to go this route, but I talked to a couple people that have run them, and actually a couple companies as well that recommend them, so I really want to give them a try. Today I'll be showing you how to install these mounts and giving my review of them at the end of the video. So where can you find these AWR mounts and at the best price? I get a lot of people asking me where I buy my parts at, and these mounts actually came from Fab 9 Tuning. Fab 9 carries all kinds of high horsepower parts, like ARP head studs, chromatic head gaskets, all sorts of forged pistons and connecting rods for your high horsepower builds, and interior stuff like my Takata 4-point drift harnesses, which are DOT legal. They've even been kind enough to give me a discount code for all of my subscribers. I'll get to that at the end of the video. Let's get these things installed. In the Miata, the front subframe holds up the engine, and we're going to be loosening the engine from the subframe in this video, so you need a way to support the engine. You can either use one of these engine slings, which are about 60 bucks at Harbor Freight, or use a jack stand on the transmission on the underside of the car. You need something to support the engine when you loosen it from the subframe so it can't fall down, and you don't want to use just a floor jack under the transmission, because if the O-ring fails, the engine could fall lower than you want it to. I'm going to be using a floor jack underneath to manipulate the engine, but I'm still going to have this engine sling up on top to support it just in case anything happens. First thing you gotta do is come to your front subframe, and right on either side there's a big hole, and each one's got one nut in it. I already removed this one. There's one on the other side. You want to go ahead and remove those nuts. So I'm looking in from the side now. That's where your nut just came from. And then up above it, there's a plate with 3 bolts on it. I'll highlight it. You're gonna remove those 3 bolts, and then your engine mount will be free. For most of them, you'll be able to just use a ratchet and an extension and just get right in there and remove them. This may be different if you have power steering or AC. This is looking at it from the top. There's my exhaust there. Just so you can see where I'm working. The bolts are just right down there, just a little ways below the head. So you might be able to get them from the top, the front, the back. They're not too hard to get to. Both motor mounts are all loose now, but you have a little bracket that's on the front of your starter there that you have to remove in order to get the motor mount off. There's just one 12mm bolt right there. You can see I've already got a wrench on it. You gotta remove that bolt and the bracket will come off. Now I know this process is really similar across 1.8s, 1.6s, NAs, NBs. There might be a couple brackets here and there that I might miss. If you have an NB or something like that, and there's another bracket, I might not include it in this video. Thanks for bearing with. And there is the bracket. I've got my floor jack on the bell housing of the transmission. Now that everything's loose, I'm going to go ahead and jack it up just a little bit. That'll give me a little bit more room to work with. Now this is going to be really hard to show, but you can see motor mount completely loose. Even with one hand, I'm able to just pull it right out. You saw how much movement that motor had. These mounts are only about 5,000 miles old. They're not damaged or cracked or anything. That's just how soft the stock mounts are. You can see here, this is just a gigantic brick of rubber. So that's where all that flex comes in. With the AWR mount, there's a lot less to squish, and it's also polyurethane, which is stiffer, but you'll still have complete isolation. There's no metal to metal contact, which is what increases the noise, vibration, and harshness significantly. You can slip the AWR mount right back through that gap the same way the stock one came out, and then just thread your 3 bolts back in, which can be a little bit of a Chinese puzzle, but with some persistence you'll get them in. There it is with all the bolts secured. You do not want to put that lower nut on just yet. We'll do that as the last step. When you're trying to line those 3 bolts up, you'll probably have to manipulate the position of the engine with the jack in order to get the holes to actually line up. The other side came out just as easy, literally just reached in and pulled it out. One thing that helped me get the other side in is I put it next to the stock mount and put it at the same angle before I put it in, and that helps line the stud up and line all the holes up. Alright, well, I'm not gonna lie to you, getting those studs lined up was a little bit of a bear. You probably want to have someone help you, or definitely have some pry bars handy to help you get those studs lined up. And then the alignment dowel is gonna go just like that. This is the passenger side. And there's the driver's side. Now you're ready to put those nuts back on, the first ones you took off, and go ahead and tighten those up. The last thing you gotta do is tighten up that bolt that goes through the bushing, and once you make sure that everything's torqued down, you're ready to take it for a drive. What's up, guys? So I've been driving with these mounts for about 50 miles, and the vibration on first startup was pretty impressive. It vibrates a lot, but it's actually chilled out a little bit in these last 50 miles, and everyone I've talked to that's run these mounts, say give them about 300 or 400 miles and they actually do mellow out. Most of the vibration and extra noise is at idle and first takeoff. Pretty much everything below 2,000 you'll notice quite a bit of vibration. Above that, cruising on the freeway and stuff like that, I barely even notice they're there. So it is an increase in noise and vibration, but this is my daily driver and it's gonna be totally livable. Now, let's talk about the performance. First thing I noticed, very first time I let the clutch out, very easy clutch modulation. I have a 6-putt clutch, so it does have some chatter, and the engine mounts actually make it easier because the motor's not jumping around so much when the clutch chatters. Next thing I noticed is the car became much more responsive in the corners, getting on and off throttle. When you're off throttle and you snap the throttle open on a corner exit, the car responds a lot faster. And my biggest issue, the infamous 2-3 shift, I've hit it every single time. It's much easier. It just, everything lines up and it just goes in. So I definitely recommend it for a car that's driven pretty hard. Canyon runs, drag racing, autocross, anything like that, you're gonna love these mounts. But enough talking, let me show you some of this footage that I recorded now after I have these mounts installed. So once again, I got these mounts at Fab9 Tuning. Be sure to check out their site. They have a ton of awesome products on there and a really neat site layout. I talked to Brian at Fab9 Tuning, and he's cool enough to offer you guys a discount code on these mounts if you want to pick some up yourself. That discount code is CPC Promo, and I'll have a link to his site and those mounts in the description below. Be sure to check it out. If you enjoy the content, don't forget to subscribe and look me up on Instagram and Snapchat and all that jazz if you have it. Don't think I missed that 20K subscriber rollover. I really appreciate that, and there's gonna be a fat giveaway coming up real soon. See you guys in the next one.